Hey, it's Soleil, and this is episode 587 of the Orange Pill Investor. And today I want to talk about whether strategy or any of the Bitcoin treasury companies are forever holds. And I would say that there's really no such thing. And I know there's a lot of comparisons. It's like, oh, okay, selling strategy at this price would be like selling AT&T or whatever back before it was a blue chip, or maybe selling Apple. You bought Apple at 16 and then you sold it for a nice 4x or even a 10x. Where's 10x? 160. If you sold it for a 10x in 10 years, I mean, that's pretty good. You can pat yourself on the back, but it's still a double from there. And I'm sure there's plenty of other examples. And to a certain extent, you can give strategy or any Bitcoin treasury company a little bit of extra points for security in that, since they're built on Bitcoin, and if you believe in Bitcoin and you believe that Bitcoin is an asset that's doing the disrupting and is not going to be disrupted, then you could make that argument that Bitcoin treasury companies, if a forever hold does exist, you would have to choose something in that category. But I think it's just a matter of there's just no such thing. So if you've got a publicly traded company, they've got fiduciary obligations to the shareholders to pump value in the value of the stock, and sometimes that leads management to make ill-informed decisions. You could even argue that corporations are extensions of the government, and so they're going to be subject to the laws where they're incorporated. So that's always a risk as well. You might get some good laws passed, some bad laws passed. You might find yourself in Delaware, which is supposed to be very good for businesses. Everybody was incorporating out of Delaware. And then you might find yourself on the wrong side of a lawsuit, like Elon Musk, and have to go and find greener pastures. So there's tons of risks. And so when companies like Strategy or any of these other BTC TCs build on top of Bitcoin, they're just eliminating one risk. They're eliminating their inflation risk, right? So now they don't have to increase their prices or have deteriorating quality in their products just to keep up with inflation. So you're removing that one risk, but there's tons and tons of other risks. And so that's why I have to keep reminding myself that even though Strategy and Tesla are probably the only two stocks that I kind of feel like I will need for as long as I'm continuing to trade, that you can't be too emotional about these things, which is why I don't really mind if some shares occasionally get called away. And if you look at the what is it, Bitcoin Fire calculator, Bitcoin Fire. Yeah, I think this is Hornet Hodl. Yeah, Bitcoin Hornet came up with this one. And it's basically like, how much Bitcoin do you need to retire? It's probably around 20 now for the average person who spends 100 grand a year or whatever. Let's do 10% withdrawal, 20% taxes. Like if you spend 10% of your stack every year, and which, what, 10 Bitcoin would be 700 grand. So 20 would be worth about 1.4 mil. Your stack would decrease. Where is remaining Bitcoin, right? So it's like, okay, you're going to spend 2 Bitcoin this year, 1.8 the next year, whatever. It just keeps getting smaller. And so you're like, oh no, in 2055, I only have a Bitcoin left, but it's worth $55 million. And, you know, it just doesn't kind of matter anymore. Actually, this looks pretty accurate too. Which Kaggle did we pick? I can't remember. Model 6 median. Okay, so power law median percent from linear regression line. Okay, I don't know what the hell that means. So it's a more conservative model. Okay, I like that. And I think if you use the length of Bitcoin's life, Winston Smith said this the other day. There's a rough kind of calculation for how long do you have to hold Bitcoin to get a 10x, and it's something like take Bitcoin's life, cut it in half, and then add that half to the current date, and that'll let you know how long you have to hold it to get a 10x. And so since Bitcoin's been around for, what is it, 16, 17 years, let's just cut that in half, like 8.5 years, add 8.5 to the current date, and you're going to get 2034, maybe 2035 would make Bitcoin's price a 10x from 700,000. So, you know, it's like right in here. It's pretty close. And this is just if you wanted to, you know, retire on Bitcoin itself, not deal with the loans. You're like, you know what, I'm just going to spend my stack back into the network or the ecosystem, which I kind of like. I know everybody says never sell your Bitcoin, just take a loan, blah, blah, blah. I probably would. Instead of just taking distributions, I probably would borrow. Like if I know I wanted to spend 100 grand this year, okay, let me just borrow against my Bitcoin. You'd probably end up improving this model. But I guess the point is, this is kind of the long-term strategy that I have with MSTR and Tesla. Like, as they appreciate, I don't mind having some of these shares called away at high prices. Like if I had some shares called away when strategy was at 500 a share, that's kind of fine. And it can even give you opportunities to buy back in cheaper later. You would have had an opportunity to buy back cheaper here, and all of this bear market bullshit here would have been plenty of opportunities to buy back in cheaper. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's too hard to time the tops or the bottoms. But that's kind of why I like a 20, 30% out of the money covered call, because, you know, you might have to try to barely like roll it here, but like eventually when something like this happens, like you're rolling, you're trying to roll to your right, and then like, oh, fuck it, I just can't take it anymore. Okay, let me just let these get called away at 400 a share or something. And look at that. You can, you know, we have to blow off top, and then you can buy back cheaper. You have another blow off, well, not really a blow off top. I guess this would be more like a double top. And then you get a bear market and you can buy back cheaper. So I don't know if covered calls necessarily are the canary in the coal mine, but even if you did, like even if you were selling covered calls here, if you had the 200 strike covered calls, you know, you're at the price was at 115 and you're like, I'm selling the 10 deltas at 200. You're going to be able to roll, you're going to be able to roll, you're going to be able to roll, and you're like, oh, fuck, I can't roll no more. But let's just say you just kept rolling the 200 strike. You just kept rolling the 200 strike. And you just kept rolling the 200 strike. Eventually, the damn thing would come back out of the money. You're not going to be guaranteed for that to happen forever. I think the more, or the easier way to do that, as far as Bitcoin treasury companies, would probably do the roll until you're right thing with cash secured puts, right? if you're selling cash secured puts here, you're like, oh shit, I'm risking getting assigned here, but then you're probably going to be out of the money again. Oh shit, I'm about to get assigned. Oh, you're out of the money again. I'm about to get assigned. Oh, I'm out of the money again. Ah shit, I'm about to get assigned. Uh, so to a certain extent, I like the roll until you're right philosophy with Bitcoin treasury companies specifically, at least with cash secured puts, because if Bitcoin's going up forever, then to a certain extent, the share price should be going up forever. Ignoring all of those third-party risks that stocks have that Bitcoin doesn't. So it's just kind of a good reminder that Bitcoin is the only sovereign money. It's the only one that you can put on your cold card or memorize your seed phrase and duck out in the middle of the night in the middle of a fucking civil war. And if the stock market's closed or they lock down the exchanges or they 6102 Coinbase and Strategy and whoever the hell else has Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Simon Dixon has said repeatedly in his interviews that self-custody is the play. And to the extent that your cold storage stack has you covered, you can do whatever the hell you want with the rest of your portfolio. If you want to roll the dice on Strategy and Strive and Metaplanet and a half a dozen of the other ones that may or not work out, it really just kind of doesn't matter. As long as you've got your cold storage in plan, and how you've made a decision that you're going to bug out to South America, or you're going to shelter in place and you've got 50 pounds of rice in the garage, you got to survive. You got to survive to enjoy your sats. So that's kind of a priority as well. What's up, AB? What's up, Sandeep? Let's see. Interesting market, way down earlier, now up. Short 648 puts and for a second I almost read like you had 648 contracts. 648 puts and the 657 strike calls today. Did not expect to get tested on the calls, but will probably happen. Yeah, man, you like to live on the edge. Let's see. AB says, been really interested in gamma exposure of the brokers recently. The options market being so big on Strive and Strategy creates a dynamic that creates more gamma squeezes when the broker adjusts. Aggressively selling the $11 puts at the moment and buying $10 2028 leaps. Interesting. All right, so I think that is enough of that. I mean, there's no way I could call the bottom, but it seems like we have to be pretty darn close. Now, there's no telling how long we'll stay here. We've got all the macro stuff that everybody always talks about, but there's a little, and maybe it's an echo chamber of like a small part of Bitcoin Twitter that actually follows the spam war. And BIP 110 will activate no later than October. I think it's probably late September at this point when we'll hit the right block height. And regardless of whether it succeeds or fails, Bitcoin will have decided. So I think that's bullish as well. If markets don't like insecurity, then this is kind of like a gray cloud hanging over the Bitcoin network. And so the good news is that's going to be resolved. And I think the network can kind of proceed after that. I'm optimistic about the success of BIP 110, but hopefully this just doesn't really matter. I think it's a good test for what the node runners can enforce. And certainly for long into the future, if Bitcoin's going to succeed, we need to know that rogue developers, or even if they're not just like actively attacking the network as Bitcoin Core seems to have been doing, even if they're just lazy and egotistical, which is the most um, that's the most kind interpretation that you could give for Bitcoin Core's actions lately, is that they've just been uh, lazy and egotistical. Um, if you don't agree that they've just been outright malevolent, is that when that happens, what recourse does the network have to get Bitcoin back on track? And it seems like the answer is, well, just you know, put an alternate protocol out there. And people who give a shit, like Dathan Ohm, will champion a new protocol, and it will succeed or fail. And even if it fails, it's kind of like a shot over the bow for the current developers that, you know what, hey, we might actually want to listen to the target audience or the target users of the protocol. Because if you don't write code that node runners want to run, they won't fucking run it. And you're just going to be wasting your time. So it's going to be an important test one way or the other. And if nothing else, it signals to the development community that they need to get their shit together and listen to the network. So that's bullish. Whether it's like literally responsible for the bear market or whether that's a business cycle thing, I don't know. But, right in here was the spam started to get out of control and the controversy, and, the price went to shit. So is it because of Core V30? Of course, the defenders of Core V30 will say, well, no, it's not Core V30 that was the problem. It was the resistance to Core V30. They're the ones that caused the price to go down. But, regardless of which side you're on and which one you think is righteous or not, this test needs to happen, and the network needs to know that when shit like this comes up in the future, the network will be resilient. Node runners will continue to run nodes. They will select the best protocol, and the best developers will rise to the top, and resilient nodes will follow and run the best code. So that's bullish for me. And so it's kind of interesting that midterms are around that time. And, how long does it take for them to figure this shit out in the Middle East? Will we still be at war during the midterms? I don't know. I don't necessarily know whether the market cares, because the more that the war costs, the more governments have to print to fund them. And so the market probably goes up no matter what. It probably goes up for as long as we're dropping bombs. And even when we stop dropping bombs, then the contracts just go to everyone to repair the damage. So the market, other than some, maybe some leverage harvesting crashes every so often, some well-timed harvesting. Other than that, I think it's probably number go up for everybody. You know, they may have to dump the market temporarily to justify printing faster. I don't even remember this happening. Did this happen at the beginning of last year? We dropped from 600 to we dropped like what, 20% the price in a month? I'm sure Sandeep remembers because I wasn't trading 0 DTE SPY contracts back then. But let's see, February to April. What does strategy do from February to April? It's kind of crashing too. Let's see, February, March. Now, by April is back to coming back to life again. Oh, but yeah, so was the SPY by May, was coming back to life. All right, so with that being said, do I need to make any trades today? Probably not. Should I just kind of hovering? Let me just start at the top. 24 DTE. Today's Tuesday. Yeah. So unfortunately, the 8th is still not available. So I'll kick the can down the road a little bit longer on Cypher. And this has got another day left on it. Okay. I'm kind of happy with my progress. It's getting towards the end of the month. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to pay bills again, so I probably will have to make a withdrawal soon. But I had been making some progress, so it's gonna be 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I could just call this a wash. Like, this is so close to being margin free. And I could pull some money off the HELOC at any minute and just pay that off. But I kind of can't bring myself to do it. Like, we could still, strategy could still dump to 100 or 75, depending on what Bitcoin does. So I still kind of want to have that HELOC money as a insurance policy. But anyway, so if we close the week out at 136, these will print. Plenty of time left here. Plenty of time left here. Plenty of time left here. And plenty of time left on my cash secured puts. All right, so a whole lot of nothing with strategy. Is this small? All right, Sandeep says, got assigned the strategy December 400 short puts again this morning, then sold them out again for a bit above 400. Third, third time. Oh, so you got forced to buy the shares? Can you? So once you get exercise, you're just locked in, right? You just have to wait to get assigned. And so, did you just dump them back on the market, or did you keep the shares? Yeah, that's the ones you're selling are so far out. Are you sure there's even enough extrinsic value to make this worth your while? All right, the IRA, plenty of time left on iron, plenty of time left here, plenty of time left on Tesla. I've been stacking I've stacked 5 shares of SATA so far, kind of like trying to generate enough dry powder to do something. Probably need another $500 in order to sell another cash secured put in. Wait, do I not have any Strive in this account? Must have dumped all my Strive. Sorry, boys. Oh yeah, I think most of my Strive position might be in my wife's account. Might be getting confused. Um, but the other thing is trading the $10 stocks in the 5K account's not so bad because it's free trades. But trading $10 stocks, selling a cash secured put, collecting 40 bucks, $38 credit. It's not like terrible, but paying, oh, it's saying I don't have enough. So paying this $1.12, if I prorate that out, if this was $100 position, this would be 2.5% of my profits. So like this really eats into small positions. As opposed to selling a cash secured put in strategy, I'm collecting $365. $1.12 is like 1/3% of the premium I'm collecting. So there's a big difference here. If you're going to be trading the $10 stocks, you can still get a Tasty Trade account and use and just don't fund it, as far as I know. But then just trade like on Robinhood, or I don't know. I don't know who else does free trading. I think Webull does free trades. I think maybe even E-Trade. Isn't E-Trade free now? I need to look at my E-Trade account again. I bought a couple hundred shares of Metaplanet just for the lulz. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to hold on to this one until I can roll to, once the May 15th will be under 50 days expiration sometime next week. I'll roll these. I'm going to do a bunch of rolling next week. Actually, no, I won't. We fly out Monday. Fly out Monday. So I'll be on vacation Monday through Thursday. Do we fly out back Thursday? Huh. I could roll to Friday and then maybe do my trading on Friday. I gotta plan that out. All right. I've just got a couple of these leveraged Tesla positions. These are like way out into the future. Strategy, same, 450 days to expiration. So hopefully they're down 50% so far. But maybe I'll try to dollar cost average into these if I can scrape up. What's my maintenance excess? It's $1,800. Maybe I'll get one now. Oops, I'm sharing with audio. Of course. All right, so that brought my dollar cost or my cost basis from 700 to 580 and increased a little bit of leverage here. So this account is basically just kind of my play money. I don't really consider this part of my income strategy. And so I'm taking a lot of risks here, and you can even see my net theta is like barely positive. That's not what you want to see on an income account, but this is more lottery ticket type stuff. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm just selling cash secured puts into these miners, and then once I get enough money, I'll plow them into a long leverage Tesla or strategy position. Yeah, I may have to roll out to May 15th on Friday. That'll put these at 9 days to expiration. And these 52 DTE would be like 49. That'll be fine. Otherwise, I have to wait an extra week till I get back from vacation. All right, the 5K account, Strive expires on Friday. I think I was playing the roll until you're right game with this one as well. Strive's been, let's see, it pumped to Strive pumped to 11, back down to 975. So I just keep rolling the 10 strike. And I think I've been selling, yeah, I'm selling the cash secured put 10 as well. So at some point, the price will either continue to go above 10 and I'll just have to end up letting this get called away, or it'll drop below 10 and I'll inherit another 100 shares. Something's got to give eventually. Cypher, same. Plenty of extrinsic value for this Friday. 4-2. Oh, you know what? So, damn, this will happen while I'm on vacation as well. So this is the one that my brother-in-law and I have been watching. And if it, on 4-2, if this is below 15, we'll get assigned 100 shares. And then I'll move him to step 2 of the wheel. And we'll start selling the 16 or 17 strikes potentially. So I'm kind of hoping Cypher just continues to trade under 15. But if that's the case, I'll either have to wait till I get back on Friday and then we'll put our covered calls back on. Or maybe I'll call him. We already rolled out a Riot cash secured put to 5-1. I pruned a few positions. I'm kind of stuck with these ASST2s. These are pre-reverse split contracts. Kind of stuck with. Then again, I wonder if I can close them. What did I pay for these? The cost is only 15 cents. I think you can close them. Whatever. I just hate looking at them. And then same, I've got a couple of leverage Tesla and strategy positions here as I accumulate premiums from the short positions, taking like leaps positions just in case something good happens in the long term. Got $4 of buying power, so I like that. I've got 1 share of SATA, basically just using this as my dry powder. I mean, I could buy like 2/3 of a fractional share in strategy. That would probably be the smarter thing to do. Because if we do run to 200 a share, that would be like a 30% increase instead of just this 1% a month stuff. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll start buying fractional shares. I'm going to collect this dividend here in 5 days, I think, though. Maybe a week. And maybe I'll start doing fractional. That kind of makes more sense. All right, a whole lot of nothing. I think, what did I make? One trade. Sold the shares, sold the 400 puts again. So you got assigned at 400 and then you sold the shares. So does that count as tax loss harvesting? And then as long as you don't get assigned again within 30 days, you won't get hit for tax for wash sale rule? Or is there a chance you get hit with wash sale rule? No, it's just a shit position waiting to be right, but the puts are a lot less margin than being long shares at 400. Yeah, I'm in the same predicament with my my 145s. These are back in the money again. And so, but there's a big difference between doing rolling to your right 10% off the share price versus, damn, those 400s are brutal. And I think your expiration date was so far out into the future, it makes the deltas really high. So that's why you keep getting exercised on, is there's just no extrinsic value in those damn things. So there's no penalty for the person exercising. It's almost like, when I looked at it the other day, there was almost an advantage to it, which should not be happening. There should always be some time value. But I think the delta was like 0.999 or something ridiculous. Good luck, man. All right, I think that's all I got for today. I feel a hell of a lot better. I took several several naps yesterday, and the only thing I had for dinner was an orange, and I wasn't even sure I was going to eat that. I was like, maybe if I just fast, my frickin' intestines won't have anything to digest, and I can just heal up or whatever. But I slept pretty well through the night. Woke up this morning feeling really good. Saw the sunrise, and I think I'm back in business. So, oh, the other thing that I did, and I can't imagine it worked that fast, but I've stopped almost all of my supplements, and I'm gonna be very choosy which ones I restart. Um, I may start trying to optimize testosterone again. I had a few of those supplements that was supposed to help with cortisol, and what was the other one? Fedosia agrestis, or anyway, something I saw in Huberman probably. And I cut all of that stuff out, even my vitamin D. And with summer coming along, maybe I'll be okay. But I went ahead and started taking my vitamin D last night. I took like a pretty pretty hefty dose, and I have like an aqueous dropper bottle, and I think just a few drops is like a quarter of a mil, and I just squeezed the dropper until the whole dropper was basically full. So I probably ended up with like at least, I don't know, 10,000 units or something in one dose yesterday. But vitamin D is linked, I don't know, other than a communicable disease like fucking parasites or something, and maybe even would help your immune system repel that stuff. Vitamin D, I think, is one of the most critical pieces right now, especially if you're overweight. It's hard to keep your vitamin D levels up. But anyway, I was trying to see what I could do, eliminating most of my supplementation, and being sick yesterday. I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna I'm gonna binge on some vitamin D real quick. And so I don't know if that helped, if it can even help that fast, but it didn't hurt, that's for sure. But with the sun coming back out, I'm hoping to be able to generate a bunch more natural vitamin D. Probably gonna have to keep measuring it, but my my doctor's office also is my insurance company, and I think there's a little bit of a conflict of interest there. It's a little bit annoying, but every time I want to get tested for something, they're like, you don't really need it," and I'm like, "I don't give a shit. I want it." And I think if my doctor's office and my insurance companies weren't related, that the doctor would be like, "Whatever you want, you can have it." But they probably get report cards of like, "Oh, you ordered this and that was unnecessary and now we had to pay a claim," and they get their hands slapped or something. So that's kind of annoying. Anyway, long story short, the only thing that I've been supplementing with is like sodium, potassium, and magnesium in my water. Occasionally, like magnesium, was it bisglycinate? And that was mostly for muscle cramps. But anyway, I was able to have breakfast this morning and not get bubble guts. So that's always a good sign. All right. Appreciate everybody for tuning in.